know, for years now, it's always been very, very angry when people try to co-opt and steal someone else's suffering, another group's suffering. The Holocaust describes one thing and one thing alone. Don't use it for other eras of tragedy. Apartheid describes one particular aspect of human cruelty. When it comes to the experience of black people, well, frequently we hear those in the gay community saying, well, you won't say yes to gay marriage. It's like saying you would have supported the laws preventing black and white people from marrying, or our struggles like the black struggle. Black people have suffered probably more than anybody else. There were gay slave owners. There were never black people who owned gay people. There are different struggles entirely. You are born black, you are black. Sexuality is something far more nuanced and less specific, which applies to what we're going to talk about now, because this case, I think, is going to be extremely important for how we regard freedoms and freedoms of expression in future. Robert Muise, American Freedom Law Center, joins me now from Michigan. Welcome to you, sir. What is this particular case about?
Well, we're representing the former Associate Vice President of Human Resources at the University of Toledo, which is a government university in Ohio, in the United States. Her name is Crystal Dixon, and Crystal Dixon is a devout Christian, and she's an African-American woman. Well, one Sunday afternoon, she was reading an op-ed that was published by the editor-in-chief of the Toledo Free Press entitled Gay Rights and Wrongs. And she took offense with that article, in particular, equating, in that article, the editor-in-chief equated the so-called struggles of the gay rights movement with the civil rights struggles of the African Americans. And as an African American woman and as a Christian, she took offense, and so she wrote her own personal op-ed on a Sunday afternoon from her personal computer, signed Crystal Dixon, that she published in the newspaper. Well, for doing so, her employer, again, her government employer, fired her because they claimed that the opinions she expressed, her personal opinions, and again, she was speaking as a private citizen, commenting on a matter of public concern in a local newspaper, and because of that, she was fired because the university said that her values, her views, her Christian opinions did not equate with the diversity values of the university, and so they terminated her employment. So we filed a civil rights lawsuit against the university for violation of her right to freedom of speech.
Well, thank goodness you're out there doing that. So here we have a black woman, a black woman, that has to be emphasized, who writes a response in a newspaper, just signed in her name, not as someone from the university, not in any way, and I've looked at what she wrote, not in any way attacking gay people, merely saying, the struggle and experience of black people is different, it's unique, and it shouldn't be compared to that of gay people. And she's fired by an overwhelmingly white, middle-class, privileged administration representing or speaking for a community of gay people who, again, tend to be overwhelmingly white and middle-class. There's something wrong with this picture.
No, there is. You know, and to claim that it's the diversity values, well, what about, diversity and tolerance for, for people with religious views and religious viewpoints? And it's one-way diversity. That's the problem. The Supreme Court has described universities as marketplaces of ideas. I mean, if anything, you shouldn't censor speech. The presumption in the law should be to favor the speaker and not to favor the government censor. And in this case, that's in fact what happened. And as you point out, I mean, when we talk about this, the marketplace of idea and having a robust and uninhibited debate on these public issues, who better than to speak out on these issues and to voice an opinion on the comparison of the gay rights movement with the civil rights struggles than an African-American woman? Yeah. But yet her speech is being suppressed by being fired by her government employer. This is an incredibly important case, it's a terrible infringement on the fundamental right to freedom of speech, plainly.
Well, after the vote on the proposition in California of a gay marriage, it became obvious, and it was openly declared, that the black community, the African-American community, voted in the largest number to support marriage as being the union of one man and one woman. That then unleashed a torrent of racism, and it was heavily reported, including by people who were both black and gay. The N-word used over and over again by gay demonstrators. I mean, it was a very ugly scene. Now, this is not reported, of course, because apparently the gay community doesn't act that way. They certainly do. But what will happen here, because even if you win, she wouldn't be comfortable, would she, going back to this university?
No, and a court wouldn't necessarily enforce that sort of thing, force somebody back into the employment. What they would do is, now she was unemployed for over 3 years. She had to spend her entire retirement to cover her bills because she was unemployed. So, I mean, there is significant cost that she incurred, not to mention the humiliation, the embarrassment, the pain, the suffering, and all of that. But she lost 3 years of pay, and so that would be something we would seek in the court, is to recover that as damages.
Yeah. At a time when we've just had the re-election of Barack Obama and his wife, the First Lady, who's so... Well, some people look up to her. I have my reservations, but here is a woman, a black woman, independent mind and thought, who does so very well. Here we have someone else, senior position at a noted university. And I'm almost incredulous. If she'd written a piece that was deeply hateful and vicious, that would be one thing. We have a problem here. But she didn't. It was full of compassion, but saying, look, this is my point of view, and respect me as someone with my unique experience. But obviously they have no respect for that.
No, and she made very clear in the article that as a Christian, she said you need to treat all human beings with respect and dignity, and that, you know, Jesus Christ loved the sinner but hate the sin. And so, I mean, she was not calling for unequal treatment. She was calling for equal treatment. She was just pointing out that it was not a proper comparison of the gay rights movement to the struggles she suffers as an African-American woman who, you know, when she wakes up in the morning, she's an African-American woman. It's not a matter of any sexual preferences or sexual choices, and she's just voicing her personal opinion.
Right.
I mean, it is political speech. It rests on the highest rung of the hierarchy of First Amendment values here in the United States under our Constitution. It deserves the greatest protection.
Right. I fear that this will not be the last of such cases, but thank the Lord that people like you are out there. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.